Hi, this is Dottie the Psychic. I wanted to go ahead and answer a question I get pretty often. Everybody wants to know how you get into this. Why do I do what I do? When did I start doing what I do? And the short answer is, I think I was just born to do it. I enjoy it, and it seems to work for me. So, that's the short answer. The long answer is, I think I was destined for it. I really do, because I remember when I was 3 years old, I started seeing stuff. Like, some of my first memories are of seeing spirits. And I'm telling my parents, and they always kind of had a positive way of handling things when it came to that. I even had I had some really, I think, probably bad spirits come around once or twice. Something that was really trying to get to me. And, I'll never forget running to my father, who was a night owl, so he was awake. And I'm like, Dad, there's something in my room, and I think it's trying to get me. And Missy was my sister. We slept in the same room. And, he gave me this little bag. He put some stones and a feather in there. It was like a little, it was a medicine bag. Drew a lightning bolt on it. He said, all right, now, here's this. And then he gets a Bowie knife. And to those of you who are not into knives, it's a big knife. But, if you raise your kids a certain way, then you can trust them with a big knife. And it wasn't like I was 3 years old. I think this stuff happened, I was like 8. I started seeing some really nasty stuff. It's like, all right, you go first, and I'll follow you with the gun. Just in case, I guess, there was really something in our room, because, you never know. When your kids tell you something, it's something there to them. So, he let me keep the knife in the bag under my pillow, and I slept like a baby. It was awesome. And I tell you what, that is one way to handle it. I asked my dad, where did you even come up with that idea? Weren't you afraid I was going to cut myself? He says, no, I raised you around knives. You know better than how to cut yourself. And how do you handle an irrational fear rationally? And he kind of taught me 2 lessons with that. Number 1, compassion. If somebody says something that's real and you can trust that they're not lying, then it's real to them, even if it's not real to everybody else. And number 2, you shouldn't be afraid in your own home of anything. So we'll speed through the next few years. Come to about 13, and Mom had this friend who worked the psychic hotlines, and she was kind of an interesting character. Kind of had one of those moments in life where you kind of feel like you're in a movie, foreshadowing. I was telling her about the things we saw, and Mom was talking about the things that she saw, because she was seeing things too. So that was kind of awesome. We sat there and had a real conversation about it. Even my sister was like, yeah, just on occasion I'll see something. My little brother was too small to really talk, not so much to talk about the the conversation, but just to plainly talk. And she's asks my mother if I have started my period, and she gives me 4 decks of cards. And 2 of them were tarot, and then one of them was a planetary deck. I've still got one of the tarot decks and a planetary deck, and then I think the other was a spiral tarot deck. I can't remember. I don't think I really clicked with that one. And then there was another deck that I don't remember that I traded for this really cool gypsy deck. My dad made me give those both back and took all my cards away and put them under a ward. It's kind of hard to explain. We have, take in knives. He would go on eBay and buy all these cool ancient knives. I mean, especially the Mortal Crease. If you don't know anything about knives, it's a pretty powerful knife. They're interesting. Look them up. Anyway, this one liked us. They do often have a spirit of their own, and this one liked us. It was the house protection knife. He stuck him under that and left him there. About 16, I met a girl who ended up being a terrible person, but somewhere in my heart I still have to love her because she brought me into a more systematic understanding of magic, and that system was Wicca. It's like the gateway religion for the occultism. I think it was she gave me her book of shadows, and I copied down a couple spells out of it, and that's about all I ever got out of her, really. But then she said, well, she didn't say anything. And then I was going to an event, and there was a book merchant there somebody who's selling books, and I saw one that was by Silver Ravenwolf, Teen Witch, and I was off. And it's still one of my favorite books. It really is. There's a lot of really good references in it, and it's written for a 10-year-old girl, which is, well, not a 10-year-old girl, but a teenage girl, which I was at the time. So I'm always kind of be appreciative of that. I was kind of like Silver Ravenwolf. Of course, then I went off to college, and that's when I really got to do a lot of readings, met a whole bunch of new and interesting people, and it was all great, and things were going great. And then I dropped out of college, and maybe one more year hanging out with people, and suddenly everybody split, really. And I don't know, I think everybody who stays in this practice has this moment where you have to decide if you were doing what you were doing to be social, or if you're doing what you're doing because you believe in it. And a lot of people come to the understanding that it was fun when it was with people, and then it doesn't work when you're alone. And I was not that way. There's always something there. I couldn't deny what I'd seen and what I felt and what I knew. So it kind of went through, I guess, what's called a desert period. And over the last, I'd say 3 years, because I was kind of, my grandmother got sick, and I moved up to help her, and then she died, and I had some grandiose idea of keeping the house and the family, because her and my grandfather had built it together, so we're kind of locked in BFWV. If anybody knows about Ravenswood, it is the church capital of the world. There are more churches per capita than anywhere else, at least in America, and I think the world. So yeah. But I couldn't give it up. So I started reading cards at the bar. And I tell you what, that will get you some interesting practice right there. You will learn to read under distraction. And so, yeah, I can read under distraction. A lot of distraction. And the longer I read there, the more I'm like, you know what, I've always kind of in my heart wanted to do this for a living. So now I'm making a go of it. And that's the backstory. So, now you know. And knowing is half the battle. Good luck.